29 years since a promo dropped and it made a superstar that could instantly put them in Mount Rushmore. Welcome everybody to Sancho West Wrestling. My name is Sancho West, where I talk about all things wrestling. And today's episode is going to be a special promo breakdown of the one and only Stone Cold Steve Austin's Austin 316. And it is the 29th anniversary on it to this day of this upload, June 23rd, 1996, the King of the Ring, where we witness a star being born. And this episode, we're going to break down the promo like we did John Cena's last promo. And a lot of people in the comments were like, hey, don't forget about Stone Cold. I never forgot about Stone Cold. I grew up in the Attitude Era, but this happened in the new generation era, the in-between of the golden era of 80s wrestling to the new generation to the Attitude Era, and this was special. Before we watch the promo itself, let's talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Kind of a guy that kind of floated between different promotions, things of that sort, ended up in WCW as a studying Steve Austin, went to ECW, kind of found his way as an early version of Stone Cold. They finally gave him the microphone because he was known as a great worker. He could work the ring, he could run the ropes really well, he could make you look really good, but they never really gave him an opportunity on the mic. When he got to ECW, Paul Heyman finally gave him that opportunity. You got a lot of the inklings of the early versions, prototypes of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He goes back to the WWF, and they don't give him the Steve Austin character just yet. He becomes the ringmaster. And as the ringmaster, his manager is Ted DiBiase, and he wins the $1 Million belt. And his first finisher was the $1 Million sleeper, the sleeper, the dream hold. So that was it. That was Stone Cold Steve Austin having somebody else speak for them. So 1996 rolls around, right? And Stone Cold is finally working his way up through the card. Right now he's at the mid card. He goes to the King of the Ring. He destroys everybody and gets to Jake the Snake Roberts. And after this, they give him an interview. And one thing before we begin the promo, dude, look at wrestling that it was right there. Look at it. Look at it. They got a guy in the rope. They got the crown, and it has a big WWF logo on it. Stone Cold was not going to put that on. He was not going to sit in the seat. You could immediately tell that by his vibe. But dude, I'm telling you, this dude was different. Everybody cut promos the same way. The Hogans, the Macho Mans, it's all like, I'm going to come over there. And you really didn't buy it, but you bought Stone Cold Steve Austin. So just like the last promo breakdown, we're going to listen to it, and I'll stop and pause it and talk about it. But let's do this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth prestigious King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin, an incredible victory.
The first thing I want to be done is to get that piece of crap out of my ring.
Come on.
Don't just get him out of the ring, get him out of the WWF. Because I've proved, son, without a shadow of a doubt, you ain't got what it takes anymore.
Dude, again, things you don't say in the current WWF, and you don't say to Jake the Snake Roberts. This dude's a legend. Now, Jake, in his promos, you're about to hear Austin reference when he would talk about Bible verses and things like that. Jake the Snake Roberts is also notoriously known, one of the great speakers, promos on the microphone. He's a different intensity. He speaks with a very low, gravelly, and he stares at you. I didn't say in the beginning of the video, but I have an acting degree and theater degree, so I'll give you that kind of lens as well. But immediately off the bat, the intensity of Stone Cold Steve Austin's there. When a lot of people talk about LA Knight and things of that sort, they always talk about he has a mix of The Rock and Stone Cold. But what makes Stone Cold special is that he really feels like he means what he says, and he's full of attitude, legitly. And you could see why the WWF gave him the football to carry into the Attitude Era.
You sit there and you thump your Bible and you say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere. Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass.
Like, dude, again, things that weren't said on TV. He's coming from ECW at this time. He knows how to kind of weaving these type of language and things of that sort into promos, and it just comes off so organically. And I just love the look from the interviewer's face about I think that's Michael Hayes. But that look of, oh my goodness, this is not good, right? This is like we're crossing the line here. But that's such an iconic line. Austin 3:16 just says, I just whooped your ass. The best. Simply the best.
He is Stone Cold. Come on, that's not necessary.
All he's got to do is go buy him a cheap bottle of Thunderbird.
All right, stop
and
it.
try to dig back some of that courage he had in his prime.
Very, very interesting thing. Now, I remember we talked about in the John Cena video, if you didn't watch it, how John Cena has the ability to kind of toe the line. He could say things that are crossing the line and people would be okay with it. Now, at this time, Jake the Snake Roberts is dealing with a lot of demons in his closet and things of that sort. And he is, he's been wrestling for a very long time. He's a workhorse of the WWF. He's a workhorse of previous promotions. And it was interesting when I first came up into the wrestling world and into the golden era, I did not know by the time that, a superstar would get to the WWF, they were already past their prime, right? Like seeing the Jake the Snake Roberts, seeing Vader and things of that sort. I thought that was them at their prime. But no, dude, they were actually bigger in previous promotions and all the variety of different across the country. But when the time WWF bought all those promotions, they came to WWF, and they're like a little bit past it. But it's so fascinating to me, not now being engulfed in this world of pro wrestling, understanding like there was promotions before the WWF and other promotions beyond WWF and WCW, things like that. So Jake the Snake Roberts, well past his prime. And for him, the Stone Cold, to bring up a true personal thing in the background, which further, future promos tend to do. You have the Eddie Guerrero, where some of y'all commented that, talking about addiction and things of that sort. So it's quite interesting when they blur the lines. And they tend to do that more and more as promos go on, because they know that the audience actually likes that. Just the same as John Cena calling out CM Punk about Mr. TKO, CM Punk calling out John Cena and things of that sort. There's so many variety, and that's that layer of juice, that flavor that we like to see in the promos.
As the king of the ring, I'm serving notice to every one of the WWF superstars. I don't give a damn what they are. They're all on the list, and that's Stone Cold's list, and I'm fixing to start running through all of them.
All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It's so interesting already that Vince McMahon is the voice you hear. Vince is trying to cut this short. Vince is trying to cut this short. And at this time, Vince is not a character. He is not the Mr. McMahon. He's just a commentator, right? He is the boss, but he's a commentator, and you could kind of hear that he's trying to get them off the stage. No doubt. I used to work as an interviewer as well. You always have someone in your earpiece, and they're trying to move the segment along. You could tell that there is that kind of like, all right, he's done. We got what we needed. Let's move on, and that's what makes this promo a little bit more iconic. That's a little bit rebellious.
And his remarks. 1996 WWF King of the Ring.
As far as this championship match is considered, son, I don't give a damn if it's Davey Boy Smith or Shawn Michaels. Steve Austin's time has come. And when I get the shot, you're looking at the next WWF champion. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Obviously anything but humble. The fourth prestigious King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Dude, and I told you, doesn't put on the robe, doesn't put on the crown. Like, it's such an interesting choice. And when it comes down to, like I mentioned, acting and things of that sort, every choice matters. There was a moment that when Stone Cold walked up to the podium, he looked at the crown, he looked at the robe, and he just, dismissed it almost. But he didn't make it a point, You got to understand, like, a lot of the other characters that were the superstars that won the King of the Ring ended up wearing the crown, ended up wearing the robes. I mean, look at Bret Hart. Bret Hart looks ridiculous wearing it. And Stone Cold's character is not all about that, dude. He's all about business. And he ends the promo in the strongest way ever. He built himself other business. He opened himself up for other work. He called out the British Bulldog. He called out one of the top dogs in Shawn Michaels. I mean, that's what you want to do in a promo. You want to set yourself up. I mean, it's not necessarily going for business for himself, but more importantly, he opened that up for the audience, and then he ended it with the, because Stone Cold said so. Like, awesome, simple. I remember as a content creator, another like big content creator came to me and was like, hey, what is it that I can do, like catchphrase wise, I didn't really have like a big catchphrase when I was making content in the early days, but I kind of developed some. And that's what I told them is like, dude, eventually you're going to develop a catchphrase and it will come to you naturally. And it's best that the catchphrase comes to you naturally, because if you try to force a catchphrase, that's when things go awry. We could always think of catchphrases that were forced. Sometimes it works out, like Jey Uso forcing yeet, something from coming from 2007 or something like that, 2013, and making it work in 2025. Bizarre and crazy. But let's see if there's anything extra in left of this promo.
Well, we
we've stated many times before that anything can happen here in the World Wrestling Federation, but I must say the events that have happened here thus far tonight and the toll that it has taken on these athletes is something I don't believe we've ever seen before.
Exactly. We never seen before. And this is not necessarily the first launch point for Stone Cold Steve Austin. You would think that he'd become a main eventer here. No, he sticks in the main card for mid card for a little bit, and then eventually in '97 he wins the Royal Rumble by beating out Bret Hart in a heel way where he gets thrown out of the ring and then he comes back in the ring behind the referee's back, and then he gets in the program with Bret the Hitman Hart. Eventually, he wins again back-to-back in '98, both Royal Rumbles, and that basically catapults him into that main event scene. I know he has that great historic match against Bret Hart earlier as well, but or eventually he has it. But the point I want to make is promos are so powerful, and this is why we talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin '96 promo 29 years later. It is the mark or the winds of change from the golden era of 80s wrestling to the hokiness that you could see throughout the entire King of the Ring. You had people opening doors, you have knights, you have peasants dressed and all things, that kind of stuff, to the Attitude Era where Stone Cold Steve Austin's thrived. And it's so fascinating to see that the victims of the Attitude Era were like the Bret Harts, you know, the people that were uber mega vanilla baby faces, right, that were doing it the right way. And then you have a character who's obviously like a heel. It just ends up being cool to work with, and it's awesome. And it's so awesome that happened there. And who knows, maybe he got in trouble for it. The WWF is known to give those kind of backstage politics, kind of bury somebody. But yeah, like I mentioned, it takes a little bit for Stone Cold to kind of take off after this promo. Iconic promo. Let me know other promos you want me to do a promo breakdown down below, and we'll continue this series throughout the times. And of course, if you want to check out my watch parties on Mondays and Fridays here on YouTube at Sancho West Wrestling and all PLEs, stick around. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.